Impossible. We say something is impossible because we have every reason to believe that it can't be done. Impossible goals mean that some obstacle stands in the way of making them a reality. Now, whether that obstacle is a physical limitation or just a mindset, we call something impossible when we see a wall that we simply cannot overcome. I'm a post-college researcher at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in engineering. So when you take traditional engineering and you fill it with seemingly insurmountable obstacles, that's what we call research. Engineering in general is all about using math, science, and technology to solve problems. But when you get to the research side of things, what you spend every day trying to do is basically solve problems that no one else has solved yet. These are problems that no one else has thought of maybe, or problems that someone once thought was impossible. My team and I, more specifically, develop engineered materials. It's not that long ago that creating a material that's as strong as steel and lighter than wood would have sounded like an impossible task. But thanks to microstructure design and our knowledge of combining materials together to form composites, that's exactly the kind of thing that we do. We don't get there without obstacles, though. Most research projects begin with some broad idea for an invention or an innovation. And so once you begin that project, maybe you find out that your design is difficult to manufacture. So you have to go back to the drawing board, redesign it, make it more usable. And then maybe you find out that it can't withstand the required temperatures or the required stresses, and you have to redesign it again. And then you find out that the material is too expensive. So you look for other processes, other materials, other designs that are better for what you're looking at. And then maybe it's the wrong size, and then you need to find another source of funding, and on and on and on and on. As you can imagine, this can be pretty frustrating. When you've spent months on a project that suddenly seems like it's failed and a dead end, it's easy to feel like you're not good at what you do. It's easy to have doubts. The great thing about being in research, though, is that you come to expect these kind of obstacles. I mean, that's what research is all about. It's about solving unsolvable problems, about paving new ways for things, and inventing creative ways to work through the obstacles that others before you have stopped at. When you've found a new obstacle, you've done something new, and that means that you're moving forward with something that hasn't been done before. But while not everyone is a scientific researcher, everyone is going to encounter obstacles at some point or another. Whether it's grades, friends, insecurity, big or small, every path to accomplishment has roadblocks. If you're not facing obstacles, you're not moving forward. If you stand still or you walk around in the same circle that you've been on before, you are guaranteed not to encounter obstacles. I can spend every day doing the same experiment over and over again just because I know it's going to be successful, but until I run into an obstacle, I'm not doing anything new. So when you're trying to figure out who you are and what it is you want to do with your life, it's hard to know where to start sometimes. Obstacles give us the opportunity to make choices. Instead of guessing at what to do, they give us a choice to proceed in one direction or another. Obstacles reveal our priorities in life. They shape our goals. Like in research, you can't know if you've got it right without running into obstacles. But if your reaction to adversity is to run the other way, to automatically give up, you're missing out. Because in order to turn obstacles into opportunities, you have to embrace them. In research, you don't just push aside your obstacles to get to the original goal. Those obstacles are there to tell you that you can make this thing better, that you can turn it into something new and innovative that has never been done before. If there are no obstacles, it's probably already been accomplished. There's a paper written about it somewhere. And then it's not new research, and you can't call it invention. It's okay to realize that something isn't going to work, but there's a big difference between giving up and changing direction. Sometimes the only way to know what is going to work is to know what isn't going to work. Sometimes it takes obstacles to know what it is you really care about and what means the most to you. As soon as something stands in your way, you learn how badly you want something. So when somebody says that something's impossible, you get the opportunity to say either, okay, I'll try something else. Or you could say, try me. I remember when I got my very first bad grade. It was when I took my first exam in my first class in my freshman year of college. I had declared an engineering major right off the bat because my high school performance led me to believe that I was a whiz at math, and I had this engineering thing in the bag. So when the most difficult calculus instructor in the whole department, who I had the misfortune of ending up with because I registered late, handed me back my test with a 62% plastered on the front of it in red ink, I was crushed. My first reaction was, I failed. I'm never going to be an engineer. Now, of course, this is a pretty dramatic response because in every field, all the best people have had good grades, bad grades, and everything in between. And an isolated incident doesn't determine the success that you're going to have in the future. But for 18-year-old optimistic me, a D on an important test was absolute horror. I decided then and there that I was going to prove to myself that I knew how to do this. I realized that this professor had a unique style of teaching, so I learned to learn in the way that he taught. I studied really hard, and at the end of the semester, I walked out of that class, Calculus 1, with a B. And then, almost purely out of spite, I took Calculus 2 the following term from the same professor to prove to myself and him that I could get an A, and I still got a B. But it's still a good grade, and I learned not to do things just to prove a point. But more importantly, I challenged myself. And by learning the hard way, I gained a really strong foundation in math from this guy's classes. And if I hadn't done that, not only would I have probably not discovered my favorite professor of my high school or my college experience, but I wouldn't have gotten as excited as I did about engineering, and I wouldn't have maybe stuck with my major, which means that I wouldn't be standing where I am today. So in research, obstacles provide us with the opportunity to do one of three things. We can either strengthen our initial way of approaching the original goal, or we can develop new ways of approaching the original goal, or in many cases, the things that we learned along the way while we were focusing on one thing have led to other discoveries and breakthroughs and innovations that turned into entirely new goals. Inventing something isn't accomplished by simply envisioning it and building it. Obstacle after obstacle tells us what the limitations are, and tells us what the possibilities are, and what new aspects we can include. Unless you know your obstacles, you don't know if something's ready. Once embraced in a project, these obstacles can give us something that's relevant, producible, resilient, cost-effective, and innovative. In the same way, life is a process of learning how and when to make the decisions of which route to take. And the only way we get there is by experience. One good obstacle leads to another, and by embracing these obstacles, we understand them. And, in turn, we better understand ourselves. If we simply avoid obstacles, run away, or reluctantly overcome them, then the next time we face an inevitable challenge, we may end up with the same frustration as the last. But if we face each obstacle as we encounter it, We learn to understand our abilities, our strengths and our weaknesses. We learn our needs and our limitations. And we become better equipped every time we move forward. Maybe right now, you're faced with something that feels impossible. Maybe it's grades, sports, friends, long-term goals. Something in your life is not working out the way you want it to. We have a saying that floats around the lab sometimes, which I love, and it comes up whenever someone mentions that their research just doesn't work, their experiments aren't working, and the snide reply that no one ever wants to hear is, research always works. The results just may not be what you expect. No stage of my life has produced the results that I thought it would when I began that stage. I didn't wake up one day and decide that I wanted to be here. And 10 years ago when I started high school, I definitely did not know where I wanted to be. Every one of the obstacles leading up to this point has made me feel like I was further from my success than when I began that obstacle. But every one of them, from financial stress causing me to focus harder on my grades, to often being the only girl in my engineering classes and the pressure that comes with that, to taking twice the normal number of classes my last term of senior year just so I could finish my degree in time. Without even one of these daunting factors, I don't think I would be where I am today. Every step of this journey is going to have obstacles, but the destination depends on the way that you approach them. Much like scientific research, life does not always, or often, produce the results that you expect. You might walk out of here in 4 years with completely different friends, a different plan for your future, a different opinion of yourself. But at every moment that you feel like you failed, at every obstacle staring you in the face that doesn't seem like it's worth tackling, you have the opportunity to shape yourself into something new and something amazing. So I encourage you all to be excited about what is yet to come in the years ahead. You never know what you're going to expect. Do not simply overcome your obstacles. Embrace them. Learn from them. And enjoy the journey ahead. Thank you.